I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting for Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming on the District of Summerland YouTube channel. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Corporate Officer, Deputy Corporate Officer, do we have any late items? No late items. We can get approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Van Elsen, Councillor Betts, all in favor? That carries. Consent agenda. Would anybody like to remove anything from the consent agenda? No. So I can get approval of the consent agenda. Councillor Peak, Councillor Patton, all in favor? That carries. And, oh, my mayor's report. Just let me pull it out here. I thought it was somewhere. So last week, I was in Victoria for meetings with provincial government ministers and staff. I was joined by Pitt Meadows Mayor Nicole MacDonald and North Cowichan Mayor Rob Douglas for a meeting with Agricultural Minister Lana Popham. And together we discussed our proposal for an agricultural municipality initiative. The minister was supportive of our efforts and recognized that agricultural municipalities with a small tax base like ours struggle to provide the infrastructure needed to service farm properties. While she could not commit to financial support at this time, given the current state of provincial finances, she and her staff will continue to explore opportunities. From our end, we will continue to work with other municipalities to move the proposal forward. Our strength in numbers at the meeting with mayors from the interior, lower mainland, and the island demonstrated that the concern is not isolated to just one or two communities, but is province-wide. Minister Popham agreed to meet with us again in September during the Union of BC Municipalities Convention. I also met with Amanda Shaw, the Parliamentary Secretary for Mental Health and Addictions, to update her on the work underway in Summerland to address youth mental health and to thank the government for its support for establishing a Summerland Foundry Centre. And I met with senior health ministry staff, and CAO Stat joined us online to learn more about the community paramedic program and whether Summerland could benefit from it. While it seems a community paramedic would certainly help to address some of our community needs, we were told no new positions are currently being added as the program is under review. So we'll stay tuned on that. April was a busy month, and before leaving for Victoria, I attended a number of key community events. On April 25th, I was joined by most of council at the grand opening of Memorial Veterans Square and the celebration to mark the conclusion of the Wharton Street Vitalization Project. We were joined by project partners FortisBC and the Royal Canadian Legion, as well as district staff, members of the Downtown Neighbourhood Action Plan Task Force, and about 50 members of the public who came out to enjoy the cupcakes and the music being performed on the new busker stage. On the same day, April 24th, I joined Councillors Patton and Peak at the Kettle Valley Railway Society's annual general meeting, where we were treated to an animated presentation from John Cowan, a retired conductor who shared stories from his 35 years on the railway, including a stint working out of Penticton on the KVR. On April 24th, I attended Summerland Rotary's monthly lunch to give a State of the Community address, where I focused on progress made on council strategic priorities as we enter the final 6 months of our term. April 18th, I was joined by Deputy Mayor Traynor and Councillors Betts and Peak at Living Memorial Park for the upgraded and renamed Field 96. Before the event, we presented Summerland Baseball with a check for $185,000 to match the grant they received through the Toronto Blue Jays Field of Dreams program. At the same time, we unveiled a new sign to recognize the history of the Living Memorial Park and how it was created as a living memorial to honor Summerland's war veterans. The celebration itself included a parade with all local ball players from U5 to U18, followed by the obligatory speeches, including one from yours truly, and then a Summerland versus Summerland U18 game with the opening pitch thrown by Eddie Matsu. The community demonstrated its support for the project by coming out in huge numbers, And it was all incredibly well organized by Melissa and Jeff Taylor and the Summerland Minor Baseball Association. As Deputy Mayor Traynor told me at the time, they really hit it out of the ballpark, proving that even moms can tell dad jokes. So. On April 17th, Councillor Barkwell and I attended a Foundry kickoff event organized by One Sky Community Resources. It was an evening of connection and conversation for both youth and caregivers, as One Sky gathered community input on bringing Foundry services to Summerland in the coming months. And on April 16th, Councillor Barkwell and I attended the regular board meeting of the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen, where delegations from the BC Fruit Growers Association and BC Grape Growers Association highlighted how they share many priorities with local government and offer to explore opportunities to collaborate. And finally, way back on April 15th, all of council came out literally in the middle of a hailstorm to cut the ribbon on the new Peach Orchard Beach Playground. I walk along the lakeshore quite often, and the playground is always busy. Everyone seems to like both the treehouse and sandcastle structures, and especially the zip line. So apologize for the long report today, but it was a very busy month. So CEO Stat.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's been great to see so many big projects wrapping up, from the Wharton Critical Infrastructure Project to the primary clarifier and the Prairie Valley Road Project. Now our focus is shifting to getting the Victoria Road Project done, which is a complex one given the water separation work involved with that one as well. At the same time, we are busy with many meetings to support and collaborate with the two major affordable housing projects underway, both of which have significant utility tie-ins, and of course the Food Hub project as well, just to name a few. We appreciate the community's patience with many road closures, detours, water and electrical shutoffs, and dust and noise issues. We will keep doing our best to let people know ahead of time when those things are going to happen. It's Emergency Preparedness Week this week, and this year the theme focuses on making community connections. The Prepared BC team, in partnership with Building Resilient Neighborhoods, will host a free webinar on preparedness through connection on May 7th, 7 to 8 p.m. And for more information, check out the website they have set up at www.preparedbc.ca/Emergency Preparedness Week. Tomorrow we are hosting a public open house on development cost charges and amenity cost charges at the George Riga Center from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. These charges are paid for by developers to help fund essential infrastructure and amenity projects to support future development in the community. You can learn more about this program and what we are proposing on the district website as well, but we would also love if people came out to the open house to hear about it themselves. Last week, at the Recreation Facilities Association of BC conference, Mike Federer received the Dave Dauphiny Exceptional Service Award, which recognizes remarkable dedication and support within the association. Mike has worked for the District of Summerland as a lead hand overseeing the arena and aquatic maintenance for 23 years. Mike has supported many arena operators from around the province to be successful in their positions while serving on the association's board of directors as the Thompson Okanagan Zone Director since 2013. This award showcases Mike's commitment to the industry and a respected leader, and we are very proud of him. Finally, just a reminder that the Giants Head Run returns on Saturday, June 6th, 2026 at 9 a.m. and folks can choose either from a 5K or 10K run or walk. With over $2,500 in prizes, there's even more reason to take part. To register, people can go online and the community update section of our main page on our website, or you can go in person at the Aquatic and Fitness Center over here on Kelly to sign up. And with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you very much, and please pass on council's congratulations to Mike. He completely deserves it for sure. So, council, any questions for either of us? No, then we'll move on to delegations. We have two delegations this afternoon. First up would be the Summerland Museum and Archive Society. So come on up, Andrew. And just push the button so the red light comes on, and then, yeah, and then it's all yours.
There we go. And which one of these will you do the slides? Just the forward?
Yeah, forward.
Okay, great. Okay. Mayor Holmes, Deputy Mayor Trainer, and members of council, I'm here to speak to you on behalf of the Summerland Museum and Archive Society, who respectfully acknowledge that we're situated on the unceded and ancestral lands of the Silks people. The Summerland Museum Group has operated in numerous locations for more than 60 years in our town. In 2018, our board of directors embarked on the initial planning of what we are now identifying as a renewal program for the current museum facility, which was constructed in 1983. Simply put, we have outgrown and are constrained by the current facility in terms of available appropriate artifact and archive storage, gallery display space, and our very successful public programs. In previous presentations to council, starting in 2020, with our conceptual plans and schematic design documents, our architect, Cal McEljohn, then provided plans for the complete renovation of the interior of the museum and the addition of an 800 square foot gallery space with basement storage. With these, we applied for and received a development permit in 2024. We started back in 2018 in the museum to initiate this, and it's been a 8-year project, and we're getting closer and closer as far as the museum is concerned. And I'd like to, first of all, note that the museum facilities, along with the Riga Art Center and the museum park, a major component of our cultural hub, prominently located at the intersection of the main access point to downtown Summerland, as the drawing shows there. Our board of directors has identified sustainability as the most important long-term goal of our strategic plan. And to sustain the museum operations requires renewal of the facility to provide appropriate storage, exhibit, and display and administrative spaces for the museum, to continue serving the district of Summerland in preserving and disseminating our unique history. For the last 60 years, we've been in business, and we want to keep it going for a lot longer. Our renewal project has been developed as a two-stage program. The first, to provide a facility which is compliant with current museum standards for secure storage and movement of artifacts, and a well-deserved upgrade to the workspaces and offices. The second phase will be to double the size of the gallery with an 800 square foot addition on the right in the slide, with climate-controlled storage in a basement area below, so the artifact storage can be totally looked after on site. And currently we have many artifacts stored in the RCMP basement. We've had some in a sea can up at the work yard. We wanted to have it all on site, and that would provide that for us. Oh, what's happening? Not working.
No.
There we go. Okay. In this slide, with a little more detail, the photo in the upper left is the current state of our artifact storage and curatorial offices. What you see in that photograph is artifact storage, our curator's office, our administrator's office. And you can see the problem we have is pretty self-explanatory. It simply does not work anymore, given the vast collection that we have created at the museum. In addition, to that being resolved, we have a full fire separated. I'm very sorry here. There's a full fire separated storage area with the arrow for the secure archive storage. We would have a lobby admin area and offices for our staff. Now, one of the most important components is that we'd have also a permanent meeting and program space on the right, and a gallery for our very important Tate art collection is also envisioned in the renovation. Dorothy Tate gave a bequest to the museum to have a space for her to display her art, and we hope to provide that within that space. And a dual-purpose reception desk has been incorporated to accommodate shared lobby space over on the far right. Destination Summerland has expressed a real interest in operating the Summerland Visitor Center in the museum. We feel this would be a great synergy in terms of the two organizations to welcome visitors and have the museum there available for them. A photo on the bottom right is a rendering of our proposed lobby with the meeting room in the background. As you see, we have incorporated plenty of space there to accommodate both our docents and a visitor station. Now, the loading dock is another important component that has always held back the museum in terms of bringing in traveling exhibits and just simply moving our artifacts back and forth between the various facilities. It's very important to preserve and protect these, and was one of the first things that our curator asked for. Now, where are we at right now? All required architectural and engineering drawings and specs for the renewal project and renovation additions are ready for building permit application and construction. Based on these documents, we have obtained comparable quotes from 2 contractors, and at this time we are intending to apply for a building permit. Subject to funds available, we would like to maintain the momentum and with sufficient funding, proceed with construction of the renovation component later this summer. Currently, we have $300,000 in funds available towards a total budget of $600,000, which includes construction, consultants' fees, and a contingency. These monies come from a grant received of $250,000 received from the BC Arts Council for phase 1. The district has granted a waiver of $15,000 for the building permit, which is much appreciated. And we have $50,000 of Museum Society reserves allocated to the project. In recognition that the Museum Society has contributed uncounted board staff and volunteer hours in planning, organizing, and fundraising for this project, and to raise all of the funds for the consulting fees, which totals $160,000 for the design and construction documents, and raise 50% of, or $300,000 of the project cost. We are here come on, back. My apologies. We're here to request of the district that you assist the museum in reaching its renovation objectives by providing a matching grant of $300,000 to support all of the work that has been done so far. And there are many benefits to the district, which we'd like to just to demonstrate. Securing the sustainability of the museum, allowing it to provide continued recording and disseminating our history for the benefit of future generations, improving the ability to cater to historical and educational needs of the community, providing a place for the visitor center in the museum lobby, which will increase traffic flow through the museum and improve the experience as a free tourism attraction. This would also reinforce the Summerland Museum Park as a destination and the cultural hub of our town, and demonstrate the district's commitment to supporting the museum's mission and mandate. And finally, the teaser slide will be the addition to the museum, which is the approximately 800 square feet, which I mentioned earlier, which is half of the portion there that says Summerland on it. This will be planned for probably 2 years out in terms of fundraising. We're working on fundraising for that right now. And we'll be looking to the BC Arts Council and to federal organizations for further funding. And that would be the final phase in 2 years. So thank you very much for hearing us. Any questions?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So what's the timeline for phase one?
Phase one, applying for the permit now, and with funds, we have the 2 contractors lined up to choose from. We haven't selected yet. We can start construction late summer.
Okay, thank you. Open it to council for questions. Councilor Trainer?
Thanks for your presentation. It was really good. I just have a quick question for clarity. So the 300,000 that you're asking for, that's to go to phase one?
Right, correct.
Okay. How did you originally plan to pay for all of these phases? Like when you guys set out to do these plans, what funding sources did you have in mind at the time?
We had BC Arts Council in the beginning.
Okay.
And the way it works, we were given advice from them that apply for grants for the work in phases. Apply for a grant for the renovation for a maximum of 250, then come back and apply for a grant for the addition. And they were willing to put another 250 in.
They're willing to put another 250 in for
correct.
this phase?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you basically need to top up the 2 phases?
Yeah, we need to top up. But it'll take more work on our part to raise more additional funds for the addition.
Okay.
And
Are
there's
you raising funds to, of that 300,000 that you still need for phase one? Are you fundraising it all in there?
Yes, we are. We will be actually approaching members of the community. We're going to have an open house, and it's I would say, what would you say, Andrew, the next phase for that would be?
Well, we certainly want to do some fundraising in the next little while. But we've got to keep this moving, and that's why we come to the council now to see if there's a possibility of getting this matching grant. But in the meantime, we'll continue to fundraise.
Yes.
I think
There's no
that's what
question.
you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing that. Okay. Okay, no, I just was wondering how you originally had thought to, I think Petra has something to add behind.
Sure, she can. Go ahead, Petra.
If I may, we were also planning to apply for.
Petra, if you use the microphone, because it's being recorded.
Okay,
So,
People watching online need to hear you.
my apologies.
sorry, have a seat.
Oh, okay, thanks. Can you hear me good?
Yeah.
Thanks. So just to further answer your question, Deputy Mayor, we were in the process of applying for a Canada Cultural Spaces Fund grant to get that other matching portion of the funds, but with cuts to the federal budget, that program was eliminated. So we've had to pivot and reassess.
Yeah, that was to be the additional portion to push this ahead.
Okay, now I understand.
Yeah,
Okay, that makes
yeah,
sense.
We've had these all sort of stacked up.
Okay, that's why I was just kind of wondering why the 300,000 came kind of now.
Oh, okay.
And I'm wondering if that's why I asked about your plan, because this is the first I've heard of it. So, okay, and then just one final comment. Somebody in Penticton won $75 million, and apparently they're a music teacher. So maybe they would be worth approaching to help you.
300.
Yes,
Yeah.
a couple pennies.
Name and phone number.
Yeah, please.
Anyway, thank you for your presentation.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Betts?
Thank you for your presentation as well. My question actually is of the fundraising so far, you've already achieved the $300,000. Does that include the $160,000 towards consultant and design fees, or is that the 300 plus the 160,000?
300 plus 150.
Wow, so you've
We've
already,
raised about 450, 460 so far
great.
for the project.
And we're still having a shortfall of $300,000.
Yeah.
To follow up on that, I know that we're in phase one and phase two, but there's kind of two major parts of phase one. Is there any discussion on splitting phase one into A and B?
Such as building the loading dock separately and
Yes.
doing the interior. We have talked about that.
Yeah.
Our advice from the contractors was that to break that small portion out, it probably cost double than it would if we did the renovation as one project. Setup charges, administration, staffing. So their advice was they gave us a bid for the whole thing for that reason.
Right.
It's a possibility. It's probably worth about $60,000-$70,000, that loading dock, something like that. But it might cost us 120 in the future.
Right. Well, it's just nice to know, I mean, everybody's in difficult times right now as far as funding goes. So
Oh,
just,
sure.
you know, taking a look at what variations are possible, right?
Well, come back with some suggestions and we'd certainly respond to it.
Okay, Councillor Chair?
In your presentation, I thought I heard you mention something about tourism. Did you mention something about Summerland, or Destination Summerland?
Yes.
Would they be joining in your building, or?
I think our President Andrew could answer that question.
I don't come and talk about.
And if so,
Yeah, this
would
is
they be
kind of
bringing
important.
money?
Yeah, this is something we're looking into, and we've talked to Tourism Summerland, and they're indicating they're interested in at least giving us the destination, the Tourism Summerland, the desk in our museum. And we haven't come to any conclusions on that, but they're definitely thinking of joining us in terms of doing that particular part of their effort.
Because when you go to a lot of small towns across BC, the tourism is often combined with the museum. And if they're going to come, would they be bringing money with them? Because could they help with the renovation?
It would have to be in that way. They'd have to bring some money into that to make it work for us. Otherwise, we couldn't manage. But that's the idea. When we're talking to them, that's the thought, and that's where we are headed.
Councillor Betts?
This question might be for the CAO. If that was a direction that Destination Summerland was interested in pursuing, you know, they have some funds available that the district was interested in their capital, like a tourism capital investment. Would that be an option to put towards a project like this?
Through the mayor, just to clarify, so you're talking about the Killarney car?
Yes.
Allocation? Yeah, I think council had allocated $100,000 towards the movement of that Killarney car to the community. I haven't been a part of the conversations with Destination Summerland and the museum, but at the end of the day, council can allocate or reallocate those funds as you see fit, certainly. I think we'd have to hear from Destination Summerland first, though, in terms of how those two things fit together or if they're different in their minds.
Sure, that sounds like an interesting conversation to be having, maybe. Thank you.
Did we allocate all the funding from the sale of the tourist office, or is there still some left?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe it's fully allocated now. I'm just looking at our finance director, but I think we fully allocated that. I brought a report and we had allocated the remaining money from those dollars from the sale of the visitor center. Yeah.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Worship. To Councillor Betts. The Destination Summerland is still looking at or speaking with CP Rail in regards to the Killarney car with setting it over at the old Sadie site. And if I'm not mistaken, they were going to also have a desk for tourism in the museum is what the discussion's happening. So for Destination Summerland, it's two parts that they're talking with. They're talking one with the museum and they're also talking one with CP in regards to the rail car. So that's, ongoing.
Okay, well, I think we'll have to refer this to staff. Like we've already prepared our budget for this year. That's the challenge. You know, if it was for next year, it might be a little easier to look at, but our budget is set and passed, and so we'd have to, if it was for this year, that'd be a challenge finding the money. Councillor Barkwell.
So, thank you. Related to that, when is your, when do you need to know by on your timeline for the grant and such and engaging the contractors?
Money's available. Yes, no, the money is available from the BC Arts Council for a period of 2 years. So we'd like to start this year. If we had to start early in the spring or sometime in that, it would be fine. We could do that with them.
So it could be part of next year's budget deliberations.
Yeah, we could.
Yes.
Yes, we could. Absolutely.
That seems to be most realistic for us.
Right?
That would be most realistic for us,
Yeah.
really.
Understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm pleased to bring you up to date.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks
Yeah,
for hearing us.
thanks. Next, we have BC Transit and Mr. Wallman. Is he here? Is he online? He's on. Online, okay.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Well, I'm joined by my colleague, Midhat Malik, who's going to be leading this presentation.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Midhat. I'm a business development advisor at BC Transit. And we're here today to share that BC Transit is beginning a fare review in the region, and I'll share some of the
Excuse me,
considerations.
sorry to interrupt. Would you be able to turn your microphone up a little bit? We're having a little difficulty hearing you here.
How's this?
That's better, thanks.
Okay, thank you. So I was just saying that we're here today to go over to let you know that the fare review is beginning for BC Transit for the South Okanagan Similkameen Transit System, where Summerland has routes. So I'll go over some of the considerations that we are looking into as we develop recommendations, and we'll come back in a month or so to share our recommendations, but this is just a good opportunity to kind of share the our objectives and receive any feedback from council about things we should also consider. So I don't know if, could you go to the next slide? Thank you. So when we typically conduct a fare review every 3 to 5 years to evaluate fare structures and consider how well they align with the rest of the transit systems. And when we're looking at fare structures, we're hoping to optimize revenue, maintain affordability for both the transit system municipalities and the passengers, and also attract and retain ridership so that we can serve the people that we are aiming to serve. In each of the fare reviews, we also have specific local considerations. And so for this fare review, we want to consider how we can maximize the use of UMO, our new electronic fare collection system that was launched 2 years ago across the province. And we want to be able to use some of the new features that UMO has as part, which will be supported with some policy change. We want to introduce additional revenue opportunities in the system. I'll talk about that next time, but also look at other ways to increase simplicity for riders and make it so that it is very seamless for people that are traveling between and within the region to understand how transit works and how to board and ride transit. So with the next slide. Oh, one thing I also wanted to mention is transit is funded with a partnership between local and provincial governments, and all fare revenues contribute to the local portion of costs. So on this slide, we have the routes for all of the South Okanagan Similkameen transit system. And this is kind of to help us orient us on the routes in Summerland as they make up a bigger piece of the puzzle for the regional transit system. So in Summerland, we have a regional route, the Route 30 that goes from Summerland to Penticton. And it is something that residents are able to ride for free with an annual pass. There is another service, which is called On Request, curb to curb service that residents or passengers are able to take within town and also regionally to Penticton. And this is operated outside of a fixed schedule. And these are both, or On Request is something that residents do pay for. On the next slide, I have our BC Transit fare guidelines. And this first slide has so essentially in the South Okanagan Similkameen system, there's two fare structures that are happening. And what I've done is overlaid our BC Transit fare strategy guidelines on the second column with the fare structure, which is on the third column. So essentially, local fares are any of the fares that are within Summerland on request, and then also within Penticton. And you can see that our fare structure is kind of a magic formula that is based on industry best practices and recommendations. And so what we do is we have a base fare, which is our single ride fare. It's $2.25 for residents to ride on a request within Summerland. And then for our day pass rate, we offer just 2 times a single ride fare to allow people to travel all day. This is meant for so that people can maximize their use of transit. We have our 30-day passes offered, and we recommend a multiplier of the base fare, anything between 20 to 30 times, and our concession 30-day pass, which is offered to students and seniors at a 15% discount off the adult 30-day pass. When we look at our fare reviews, we always just look at like how close the fare structure falls in line with our guidelines. And so we can see that our 30-day pass is aligned within the recommended range, and our concession 30-day pass has a greater discount than is what is typically recommended. Then we see alignment with the day pass and the on request and handy dart fare. And the next slide is kind of a similar fare structure, but this is for regional routes. So again, the Summerland Route 30, which is the route that goes into Penticton, is offered for free for residents that have the pass, but still anyone that wants to take that bus who doesn't have a pass will be paying these fares. Similar to anyone riding within the South Okanagan Similkameen system, getting into Penticton will be paying these regional fares. So here the base fare is $4, day pass is 2 times that, which is aligned. We've got our 30-day pass falls outside of our recommended range, is lower than that. And then our concession 30-day pass is also a greater discount than what is typically recommended. And then our on request service that's offered from Summerland into Penticton is the same fare as the base for the fixed route service. So when we look at the entire map and we look at these two fare structures and we look at the way that transit is being operated, it is a more complicated way than a lot of our other systems right now. So something that we're considering is there a appetite for potentially combining the two fare structures to have one fare structure? Something that we're going to be diving into with the data to see what kind of usage is being had and like how people are traveling across the region, but it's also something that we'd love feedback on. On the next slide, I have information about our transfer policy. So this is also something that we are looking at across our transit systems, where we've noted that we are having a lot of issues and conflict between passengers and operators with our transfer policy, where the 90-minute transfer often expires and there is just like that issue for conflict, especially with longer range routes. Their transfer policy doesn't really serve that many people. In the case of this system, we have free transfers between 2 local routes. So that's anything between in Penticton when we have like a bigger local service. There's free transfers between 2 regional routes. So that is if you're going into Penticton and then going to the next like regional route, except if you are in Summerland, you have the annual resident pass, then you don't get a free transfer. After you get into Penticton, you still have to pay fares within the rest of the South Okanagan system. And then if you're going on a local route and then you're going onto a regional route, you always have to pay an additional top up to kind of meet closer towards our regional rate because the local rate is a smaller rate. So all to say, it is a lot of very specific rules and use cases for passengers to remember exactly like how transit works, what to pay when and where. And my ideal is to be able to simplify a lot of these policies in order to make things a bit more seamless. So one thing we're looking at is replacing the transfer policy with, in the next slide, I show we have an automatic day pass program. And this is something that is a very cool feature that can be unlocked with our electronic fare collection system, UMO, that allows with the technology to automatically cap anyone who's paid 2 times on the bus so that they don't pay more than that. It supports like increased ridership. It supports like people to like build trust within the transit system that they can just take it multiple times a day and continue taking it. It removes any conflict between transit operators and passengers, and also adds better value for riders. So we've seen a lot of success in the systems that we've seen implemented once passengers have understood it. And similar, it's something that we would be looking to do more analysis on to make sure that it makes sense. And for it to make sense in this system, there would have to be some reconfigurations that we need to happen. For example, there's some products that just wouldn't work, like the day pass, the pre-purchase day pass product. We would have to remove that. We'd want to support the one fare structure to really maximize the use of the automatic day pass, and to make it super simple for everyone. On the next slide, we have our timeline that we're kind of looking at for this fare review. So I've been getting lots of data points from our analysts, and I'm reviewing various considerations. We're here today to just let you know that we are working on our fare review, and we'll be coming back to share our recommendations in June. And then we're hoping for implementation in April of next year. And then we do like a fulsome marketing campaign to ensure that riders know what's changing, and they're well informed about how to use transit in the South Okanagan system. So with that, if there's any questions, Bart and I will be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll open up to questions to council. Councillor Betts.
Thank you for the presentation. It's interesting to see the different options. I can understand how the different fare strategies impact well, both riders' understanding of the programs and the usability of it. But my question is about Summerland specifically, because we have the free fare policy on the Route 30. What would be the impact to that program specifically?
On the fare structure options,
Well, right
or
now, the Route 30 is free for Summerland residents. And so I don't know how that would then directly connect into the day pass that you're proposing, the fare capped day pass, essentially. So I just wonder if if you have an answer to that at this point.
certainly. So while the Route 30 is free for Summerland residents to get into Penticton, they still have to pay when they're traveling across the rest of the region. So the automatic day pass is only capping like the fares so that people don't have to pay more than 2 times. And that just means a return trip, right? Like say you're going from Summerland out to Okanagan Falls, like once you transfer into Penticton, you'll have to pay the regional rate at $4 and then again $4 to come back. So it's just saying if you are taking any more transit, that it would cap it. So while I could see it being a greater advantage to a an area that has that that isn't Summerland, it's not a disadvantage to Summerland residents because it's still supporting passengers not paying more than 2 times.
Okay, and so is the technology, sorry, Mayor, is that okay if I follow up? Thank you. So is the UMO technology advanced enough to handle these complexities?
Yeah, they have, actually, we've been able to implement this in, I think 13 transit systems so far. And, so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I've used my UMO card when I'm in Victoria. You just switch it from Summerland to Victoria, and they have the automatic day pass there, and it's great because you don't have to worry about anything. You just tap and you trust the card to figure out whether you need one ride or whether you need a day pass, and it just does it. So it's very simple. But just following up on Councillor Beth, basically because of all the revenue for fares goes to the municipality, what you're coming back with is basically recommendations to whichever local government is responsible for whichever bus routes to adopt, and it's not like you're not really able to dictate the fares to the local government. It'd be up to us to accept them or not, correct?
Exactly. So I'll come back with a few different options. Ideally, all of the municipalities choose the same options so that we really do have an aligned, easy to understand transit system for the riders that are traveling across the region. But ultimately, the decision is to every municipality.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I appreciate that. We don't all have the same values, so. Councillor Barkmo.
Thank you, Worship. I know that somewhere in the years past you've explained it, but Handy Dart is a name that's familiar to me. And then, so what's different about the Handy Dart than the on request? Like, how does Handy Dart work? I thought it was sort of an on request type of service.
So I noticed, Bart, that you unmuted. If you wanted to answer that, but I'm happy to.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so HandyDart is specifically for a specific list of people who require additional support to ride transit. They have maybe disability assistance or something that supports them in like getting around. On request is for anyone, any URI, and can take it and call in and request that it come, and they will pick it up curb to curb. HandyDart supports a little bit more where it is more door to door. So they will, if you have mobility needs, they'll come to your door, help you get onto the bus and support you in that way. So that's the difference.
So if I live in Prairie Valley and I'm otherwise mobile, but I need a ride down to the hospital, say for some tests, I can call on request and I'll get a ride from my home right to the hospital door and then pick up at a certain time?
Bart, do you want to answer that? Only because I'm not familiar exactly with where
Yes.
Prairie Valley is.
Yeah, thank you. So the on-request service in Summerland travels to Penticton twice daily. That services some day programs in Penticton, but riders in Summerland can also hop on the bus and you'd be able to attend a doctor's appointment. The interregional travel is a little bit more scheduled with those 2 daily trips versus the in-city travel, but it would potentially get you there off schedule from the Route 30. You will hear about Handy Dart in the region because the city of Penticton does have Handy Dart service, which is designed for folks who cannot access conventional transit and who have gone through assessments and applications in order to access that service.
Excuse me. So I'm just wondering, like, okay, they'll come and pick you up at a certain time. You do a morning or something and an afternoon, right? And then how would you get back? On they pick you up at the hospital and drive you back to your residence basically sometime later? Or-
Yeah, conceivably. So in order to use the service, you call a day ahead. We've got a phone number where you'd be calling down to Barry & Smith, our local operating company in Penticton, and you discuss the particulars of your trip with them. It may be that it's more convenient for you to take the Route 30 back, or it may be more convenient for you to take the return trip.
It's a great service for our elderly population in Summerland. And I see later in the program or the agenda that we're talking about maybe promoting that a little bit more, and so we'll talk about that then. But that's why I kind of wanted to really be sure what we're talking about.
So if the on request is it's only twice daily to Penticton, so is there specific times?
Yes, so the on request travels to and from Penticton at 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. The rest of the day, when it's not traveling to and from Penticton, it's serving Summerland residents with in-town service.
Okay. Until which time? Until what time? Like what? And is it Monday, Friday? Is it?
It operates Monday to Friday from 6:30 a.m. until 4:30 p.m.
Councilor Park will follow up.
Yeah, so if we can follow up, so you get picked up at 7 a.m. or approximately, because you can't be everywhere in town at the same time. And if the afternoon one was to take you there in the afternoon, how would you get back? You'd have to find some other way to get back if you were dropped off at 1 p.m. or picked up for the 1 p.m. trip to Penticton?
It would depend. Yeah, I think generally you would need to find your way back, but I would need to double check on the specifics of the return trip. That'd be something you'd want to discuss with the booker at the time.
How well used is the on request right now? Do we have those numbers? Will they be?
We do have those numbers. They're a component of the kind of combined ridership report that you receive quarterly. I don't have them at my fingertips, but if you ask me again when we're talking about the Route 30, I'd be happy to fill you in with the exact numbers.
Okay, thanks. Councilor Betts.
Thank you. So I've got that report. We received it in our, I meant to pull it up, but it would have been discussed later anyway. But so just for understanding, our quarterly ridership is interesting because it's harder to tell which ones are on request versus like the what's it called, the normal bus route, like where you go and take it at the bus stop versus the on request. Are those numbers tracked separately?
Yes, they are tracked separately. Again, sorry, I don't have that report at my fingertips. I was admittedly concentrating on the fair review presentation, so I've got that up, but we do track them separately.
We have a few different agenda items about transit today,
Yes.
so we're all kind of getting them mixed up. I'm sorry about that, but it's nice to have you on the line. So, you know, I support the fair review. I think that it's fine. It's just nice to have you on the line to discuss these other parts, because I would like to be able to know for the on request service, how well that service is being used versus the transit option that is a fixed drop off and pickup time that we're going to be discussing in the next agenda items anyway. Are you online for the next part of our discussion?
I am, absolutely, yes. And I will look the figures up just during the intermission, and then I will let you know.
Okay, perfect. I'll save my questions for then.
So if we have questions for the Route 30 expansion agenda item, you'll be here to answer them?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Councilor Barbo?
I feel like this side of the table is kind of taking over the discussion, so I waited for. Following up on yours and Councillor Betts' questions, would you be able to and tell us, and if say on request requests went up 10-20%, how much additional cost it would be to the district?
Thank you for the question. So if you are paying for that service by revenue hour, so the service is being provided on the road, additional requests up to the maximum capacity of the bus would not incur any additional cost. It would just add to your revenue.
Okay, we're all good? No, it's a delegation. We'll move on. We'll talk about it. So we'll talk about transit again as we, in a minute, as we move into our business items. Oh, no, comments from the members of the public. Any member of the public like to comment? Just come up to the podium, sir. State your name and civic address and tell us which agenda item you are speaking to.
So my name is Trevor Harris. Address is 10918 Blair Street here in Summerland. So it's 2 minutes. I'll make it very quick. So I saw the expansion routing, and as an operator, well, first, I'm not representing Transit or Barry Smith. I would actually recommend option number 1, using via Solly. I lost my own track of thought for a sec. From what I've been hearing from just the riders and public in general, Solly would be the best option. Because we're not also missing any bus stops. So we're still going to serve the seniors village. We're still going to serve Summer Fair, IGA Plaza, the health center, the high school. So option number 1, Solly, would be the best way to go. So we're not discontinuing bus stops. As I said, we're not discontinuing areas, and we'll be serving more residential down Solly, and then Lakeshore. You got the tourists that want to go to the beach or staying at the waterfront resort. They can hop on the bus to either go to Penticton or come up and explore our town, as well as workers that work in Penticton and work at the waterfront or up here and work down there. So it would be beneficial to a lot of people. And then I'd also like to still go with the idea of Trout Creek service via Thornburg, Kirk, and Nixon on all trips. Lately, there was an emergency road work. Johnson was closed between Nixon and Woods. I had to take the bus that way that I recommended, and I was actually 45 seconds early at the timing point. So it really didn't add any time going that route. If also the one thing was going, if we do Solid to turn left onto 97, it is very easily doable. You can see traffic both ways, and you're turning left into a dedicated lane before you have to merge over. So it will be fine. So that's my opinion. And then also one last thing, I want to thank council, or the district, and BC Transit, and Councillor Peak there for giving me the date. We are going to do our very first here in Summerland Stuff a Bus event on Saturday, October 3rd with the IGA. The bus will be parked there for the food bank so people can bring their non-perishable items to stuff the bus. IGA is going to do a barbecue from in talks right now, and then, so that's all I can think of. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Trevor. That's great. Anyone else? No? So we'll move on to our business items. First up, 9.1, the 2025 audited financial statements, and Director of Finance, please.
Thank you, Mayor Holmes. So Canadian audit standards require that those with the recognized authority have asserted that they have taken responsibility for the district's financial statements prior to the issuance of the audit report. So our auditors, BDO Canada, LLP, have completed their audit work and are prepared to issue an unqualified opinion that the financial statements fairly represent the financial position of the District of Summerland as at December 31st, 2025. Once Council has approved the statements, BDO will formally issue their opinion. Now, prior to handing today's presentation over to Mario Parati, partner with BDO Canada and the engagement partner on our audit, I just wanted to briefly comment on the statements overall. So the financial statements show a stable financial position, which was comparable to the previous years. This is despite numerous external factors that have impacted our day-to-day operations, as well as some significantly large capital projects that we did throughout the year. Two financial indicators that I'd like to highlight this evening, or this afternoon, I guess, are net financial assets and reserves. So net financial assets measure a municipality's ability to cover its financial liabilities with its financial assets at any given point in time. Our 2025 financial position reflects net financial assets of $8.4 million, further strengthening our financial position by $422,000 when compared to last year. District reserve funds at the end of 2025 totaled $43.8 million. Now, that was a decrease of $5.3 million over last year. That decrease in reserves is attributed to our overall capital dollars spent, and specifically the use of reserve funds to pay for these acquisitions. So with that being said, I would now like to call on Mr. Parati to provide council with BDO's overall comments on the district's financial statements and their audit findings. Mario?
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. It's good to be back in front of you again this year in the room. And as your Director of Finance said, we're here to go over the financial statements for the District of Summerland for the year ended December 31st, 2025, and the audit report therein. As I've done in previous years, you have a full copy of the financial statements in your agenda package, as well as my report to Mayor and Council. But I have a brief PowerPoint to kind of reinforce some of the discussions that your Director of Finance had, and then to also go over the audit results. But if there's anything that I don't cover that you have questions on from your pre-reading, please feel free to ask those questions as well. And as mentioned, we are issuing a clean audit opinion again. So if it is Council's pleasure to approve the financial statements, we will be stating that in our opinion, these statements do present fairly the results of the District of Summerland for the year ended December 31st, 2025. And when we start looking at your statement of financial position, so again, the snapshot of your assets and liabilities at the end of the year, we see the net financial asset indicator of $8.3 million and up $400,000, as was mentioned. When we look at the movements in there, I think a couple of important items to highlight. We see that your financial assets, so this represents your cash investments or cash that's coming in, did decrease by $2 million this year. And again, given the capital projects that we have, there's no large surprise that did decrease. We see that your debt with Municipal Finance Authority did decrease by $2 million through regular principal repayments and then the actuarial adjustments on the debt. And your liabilities remained fairly flat year over year. When we look at your revenues and how you did this year, total revenues came in just under $56 million at 55.98, up from $51 million last year and shy of budget at $56.9 million. And as you can see, everything is fairly close to budget. We do see that user fees and own source revenues are up from budget, which is consistent. We know that a community of your size, you want to be budgeting those items conservatively so you don't end up with shortfalls. And so no concerns there. Taxation right on budget. Government transfers, as we'll see in the coming slides, capital projects didn't fully get completed in terms of what was in the budget. It doesn't mean that you didn't get the grants. It just means that we couldn't recognize revenue from those grants. And everything else came in fairly close to budget. And then when we talk about your $56 million in revenue, this just kind of shows how it's broken down. Your user fees, the electrical, water, sewer, utilities making up the largest portion, taxation coming in at 30% of this as well. When we look at expenses, total expenses came in at $43.8 million, up from $40 million last year, but down from budget of $50.4 million. And again, when we look at this, there's no real standout items that we have there. A lot of the variances that you'll have do deal with just timing of capital projects, because whenever you have a capital project, there's going to be some accountants saying, well, some of this has to be from the operating fund and some of it's from capital. And that's really your biggest items to deal with there. But there's nothing that really stood out as here's something that really caused us to deviate from budget. And then this slide I always like to have on here because when we talk about your annual surplus, we see an annual surplus of $12.1 million, but we know that you had a balanced budget planned. And your financial plan column starts with an annual surplus of $6.5 million. And this is where I always like to remind council that, you know, the way you're required to budget in accordance with the community charter does not align with how you're required to present the financial statements. All these numbers come from the financial statements have been pulled together to summarize how you did against budget. And so the plan was to have an accounting surplus of $6.5 million. You would then have spent on capital projects of $32.6 million and then ended up in a deficit of $26 million. And then you would have also repaid debt of 1.2 being cash payments of debt repayment. You would have funded that from a combination of debt and drawing from your reserves to cover that off. What happened this year, though, we ended up with a $12.1 million surplus. Your capital projects were at 50% of what the budget was at $16 million. So your deficit before transfers and your debt came in at $4.8 million. And you only pulled out $4.5 million from your reserve funds as opposed to you know, the full amount. So we ended up in a deficit after transfers, but that just represents the fact that you used the operating surplus to cover capital expenditures this year. So when you look at this all coming in, I'll reinforce this is a snapshot in time. You know, we can see that you didn't draw down on your reserves as much as you needed to, but that's going to be coming. I couldn't drive down the street because of the road has been dug up in front of us. So we know that some of these dollars that we're talking about have already been spent. And so going back to the comment of stability that your Director of Finance said, that's what we see. You're stable in the face of a lot of capital projects. You're structured to be generating the revenues there. But it's not that when we see that you didn't have to draw down as much as you needed on reserves, that that's additional money that's available. It's still been spoken for. And then I'm going to just pause and talk about accumulated surplus for a moment before we switch to the audit results. And, you know, while the Director of Finance likes to comment on, you know, our reserve funds and what we have, we talk about $187 million sitting in your accumulated surplus, but we know that that's not what you have in the bank. And so this is a reminder that included in that number is $150 million, which represents your invested in tangible capital assets, which is all the money that you've historically spent on infrastructure in the community, less what you still owe on it. And so that's not money that's available for use. And when we take that 187 less than 149, we get back to that 37 million in terms of what we're sitting in reserves and in your current funds. Current funds are the money that's available to management to execute on the budget. And then we have our reserve funds here that is money that's been earmarked by council that management can only access when council releases it through the budget process. So I will pause there and just ask if there's any questions on the financial statements before I speak to the audit results.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions? No? Councilor Barkle? I know you want to ask.
Actually, I just want to say I appreciate the more qualitative or subjective explanation of the numbers.
Okay, thank you. Carry on then.
Okay, thank you. So now we move to the audit results and, you know, obviously without getting in an open meeting into all the nitty gritty of how we do our testing, before I speak on the results, the first bullet, audit completed on time, as council is aware, there were some staffing changes that happened this year. And I want to thank the Director of Finance and in particular his team. Everybody had to step outside of their comfort zone to go and step in and ensure that we were able to get things done. And I really want to emphasize a thank you to him and the team and mention his team so that he doesn't take all the credit for it. Because, you know, there was a noted increase in effort on both sides, but in particular on their side, there was definitely more heavy lifting and items that they didn't have to deal with. So I wanted to recognize that for you. And in spite of that, I will say that, the audit went according to plan. We didn't have to deviate from our planned approach, which, as a reminder, we come in the fall and we do our planning and we look at what's changed within the district. And given what's changed, how do we adjust our audit approach? How should our results look at given those changes? And our testing came in line with what we had expected, which means that we didn't have to deviate, which sounds like what's supposed to happen, but I can say as I'm in the middle of municipal audit season, that is not always the case. And then when we also look at it, obviously we can't come in and look at every transaction within the district, so we have to do a risk-based approach. Where there's more risk, we spend more time, less risk, less time. The big three items that we looked at this year, which is consistent with where we had in the prior years, first is looking at your revenue, in particular your grants, and how to recognize the funding within those agreements. There was a comment earlier about the state of the affairs of the province and financially where they're at. They've really gotten creative with the grants in terms of how to recognize it to help manage that as well. And so that puts a bit more pressure on management, but didn't have any issues with recognition of revenue. The next item, big ticket for this year and will continue to be as I look at your 5-year plan, in particular capital plans, is capital projects. Do spend a lot of time looking at that just because of the sheer magnitude and complexity of these projects. And when we do that, we don't just look at, okay, did this kilometer of pipe get laid in the ground or that you paid for it? We look at what was the tendering, how'd you adhere to the budget, how'd you adhere to process, and we audit from that approach as opposed to just looking at individual invoices. And again, no items identified there. The last item is what auditors like to call management of override of controls, which very simply put is the recognition that in any organization, doesn't matter what industry, who's running it, there's always going to be people who can get around the controls that prevent loss and prevent misstatements. The financial statements, we deem that to be your senior leadership team, your finance team, and of course, mayor and council who can exert influence over them. So we do targeted testing in these areas, and we did not identify any issues there. So all in all, quite pleased with how, the audit went under the circumstances. And there were also no significant items to bring forward in terms of recommendations to improve how you operate. There were a couple of smaller items that we discussed internally with Director of Finance, but there were no items that were required to bring forward to you that we feel creates risk within the district. And so again, quite pleased, and a thank you to your team.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Trainer.
When you said that there's 3 areas of risk and you said grants were an area, why, how come those are a risk?
So through the mayor to Councillor Trainer. So when we look at the grants, it's because how you have to recognize the revenue, and like you can get a $5 million infrastructure grant from the province, but when we time it, what year, how much gets recognized in each year, there's a lot of judgment and complexity that goes into there. So we have to make sure that it's being timed accurately, which also, when we look back and we see the variance in terms of your grants against the budget, that's part of why it plays into there. It's all the timing and all the different stipulations that are attached.
Okay, thanks.
Good. Councillor Barco?
When I look at the news and the things that have given councils and regional district boards a bad name for mismanagement, it's usually been capital projects where they weren't on top of things going wrong, and expenses such as what happened at the Thompson-Nicola Regional District. And they were audited year after year, and nothing was brought to light until, or at least that the board paid any attention to, until like about 4 years, 5 years, and then they wound up with a forensic audit costing $500,000. Do you sort of look at those sort of things, expenses that have been split, and any sort of, there's a lot of pressure by senior staff on others to approve things that maybe they didn't want to or didn't really part of and stuff. I think things were brought forward and then the people were sent off. Any comment on that sort of audit risk?
Through the mayor to Councillor Barkwell, you're exactly right in terms of where these risks lies in the public sector and why they're there. And that's also why I specifically bring those up as those areas. Our approach, you know, we have to maintain materiality. And I mean, we're going to look at expenses all the way down to $10 based on our sampling. But we're not going to look at every $10 expense report. Obviously focus on the larger items, but you know, we do raise it as a risk and make sure that we're hitting those areas, and in particular expense reports and credit cards are the two major items there, and looking not only at is there any of the items that we tested that we're looking at that there isn't a clear linkage to business use, and then also looking at the chain of command of approvals. When you look at TNRD, and this is all public in the forensic report, it was the influence of the person in charge. And, you know, we weren't the auditors at that point, but it's also how the approvals were happening and everything else was there. There were patterns that could be seen. And that's why, you know, we adjust our approach in that area. And, you know, to the capital projects, that's also why I highlighted general audit approach. And, you know, when I'm working with other offices, I always highlight this, is to just go, let's just look at a bunch of invoices for big dollar amounts and say, yes, the assets exist. If that's all you're looking at, you're not getting the whole story. And it's the whole story that tells you, if we look at, you had 10 tenders in the year and every single one of them is over 20%, then we should be telling you that that there's a problem with your procurement and what's happening here. Having gone through procurement last year and having our contract renewed, on that, I can tell you your procurement department is quite diligent, as Director of Finance can attest to on that.
Okay, that's good to hear. Okay, thank you very much. So we would need a motion to approve. Councillor Van Elfen, second. Councillor Betts. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? And none opposed? That carries. Thank you very much, Mario. Moving on to the Route 30 expansion options. Who would be taking this?
Mr. Mayor, I'll jump in there.
Okay, see you.
Our new senior planner, who I don't know if council has met yet, actually.
No.
And I'm going to take a shot at your last name, Brandon. Okay, it's
Like the country and state. Georgia.
Georgievich? There you go. Georgievich. Brandon Georgievich. Brandon has been here now for some weeks, but his initial debut with council is today, and he'll be presenting on this matter as well. And over to you, Brandon.
Thank you, Graham. So, through the mayor and council, nice to meet you all. Brandon Georgievich, like it always comes up, like the country or the state, Georgievich. Senior planner, I worked with City of Kamloops before this for 4 years, Lower Mainland for about 2 years. Masters in Toronto, learned from great people there, and lived in Victoria. So bounced around quite a bit. Loving Summerland so far in the months I've been here. So my role will cover everything from long range to short range planning, but today and environmental aspects too, but today is transit. I am more of a vessel, not really the expert here. I am working with Bart, who is online. So we've received his work and we sort of staffified it for you. So today's, so go back. We know why we're here. It's Route 30. And so the purpose is to outline route option for Route 30 to include the addition of stops in Lower Town and additional service in Trout Creek. Why we're here? Well, February 10th, there was a council resolution that staff be directed to work with BC Transit to bring a report back on adjustments to Route 30 to accommodate additional stops within the current operating budget or outline the additional costs as necessary. So once again, this presentation is to summarize the staff report and facilitate discussion between mayor and council, staff, and BC Transit. And thank you, Bart, for being online. So recap, current schedule, there are 5 daily Summerland to Penticton round trips happening every 2 to 3 hours, Monday to Sunday. We have approximately 2,500 annual service hours. Those are the bus hours when they're actually operational. Excuse me. And Route 30 serves key destinations, including shopping centers, Okanagan College, the regional hospital, and Summerland Library. So, and this service is also supported by on-request service. The current route is shown on the screen. I know it's a little hard to see, but we're going to be focusing on the right image. It's going to change in the next slides. That's the focus area in Summerland. So option 1 is via Solly Road. That's the green line shown. So that's the first rerouting. Serving Lowertown via Solly Road would include a detour after stopping at Summer Fair Shopping Center, shown as location C. And the green line is added, and the red line is a service removed. And so there are pros and cons to this, or opportunities and considerations. So opportunities, we would maintain service to all existing stops while introducing service to new areas. However, we would basically, option 1 would add approximately 8 minutes northbound and 9 minutes southbound to the route's time, once you factor in the additional stop times. Time is money, so additional trip time equates to 600 annual service hours, which are contingent on provincial and local funding commitments. So this is on top of that 2,500 hours. Additional runtime would mean trips would be adjusted, so that's impacting the connections to Penticton when you're taking a second bus, as well as the start and end times of the on-request service. So other considerations would be that this option would require an unsignalized left turn from Lakeshore Drive onto Highway 97 southbound. Grading and the turning radii, the radius, on Solly Road may be unsuitable for buses. So travel via Peach Orchard Road may be required, which would add additional runtime beyond the 8 to 9 shown on the screen. Option 2 is going to be through Lowertown via Peach Orchard Road, shown with the green line. This would detour after the bus stop at Victoria Road and Jubilee Road West. Once again, the green line is added and the red is removed. The opportunities would be we would introduce service to new areas and create a new westbound stop on Peach Orchard Road and Rosedale Avenue, a transfer point between Route 30 and the Kelowna-Penticton Route 70. The considerations, though, would be closure of stops at Summer Fair Shopping Center and the Summerland Memorial Health Center. It would add 4 to 5 minutes to the trip with the stops. An additional trip time of 325 annual service hours would be added to the current 2,500. Adjusted trip times would impact Penticton connections and the on-request service, and you'd have that same issue with the unsignalized left turn from Lakeshore Drive onto Highway 97 southbound. And once again, as we all know, Summerland has steep grades and tight turns on that silt bluff. And this is just a recap. I know we'll probably go back to this slide, but there's the 2 options side by side, and we'll come back to it during discussions, just sort of a placeholder. And I just want to reiterate BC Transit's recommendation. So this whole work was Bart and his team, and I'm just the vessel presenting it more or less. So the 2023 South Okanagan-Similkameen Transit Future Action Plan, nice short snazzy name, proposes local service within Summerland, and there is expected future service within the same area we're talking about. So BC Transit would recommend that as an interim step, the on-request service be promoted to access Lowertown. And BC Transit can also work with the district staff, yours truly, to submit a funding request for local service, which would include service to Lowertown through BC Transit Expansion Planning Program. And our staff recommendation mirrors BC Transit's recommendation, which is that no changes made to Route 30 Summerland Penticton is made at this time. All right, questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Council, any questions? Councilor Betts?
Thanks for the presentation and welcome. So kind of in light of looking at the staff recommendation from BC Transit, the BC Transit recommendation is to leave Route 30 the way that it is and basically increase promotion of the on-request bus. So this is where I was hoping to hear from Bart if he was able to find the statistics on our ridership on the Route 30 bus versus the on-request. Because at one point in the staff report, it does say that there are 7 regular users of the on-request bus from Lower Town to Upper Town. So I just want to I would like to hear more about the ridership on the on-request bus, please. If Bart has that.
If you're able.
Yep. Sorry, I just, there's limited people I can see, so if you're, just tell me if you want me to go, no problem. Yeah, so I was able to take a couple of minutes and review some of our ridership reporting. So on request averages about 200 riders a month, compared to, in the neighborhood of 12 to 1,500 riders a month on the Summerland Route 30. It's a light duty bus similar to the Route 30, so it can hold between 9 and 17 passengers, depending on wheelchairs. We do have wheelchair users who use it quite frequently. We average about 15 wheelchair rides a month as well. Just to fill in a little bit more of the detail on the actual routing. So in the morning in Summerland, the on-request bus does in-town pickup from 6:50 to about 7:30. From 7:30 to 8 o'clock, it travels to Penticton. From 8 o'clock until whenever it's done, it finishes dropping folks off where they need to go, be it the hospital, day programs, the mall, etc. Takes about half an hour to travel back. It does local service within Summerland from around 8:30-ish until 1:30. At that point, it travels back to Penticton, does in-town pickup in Penticton for approximately an hour to an hour and a half, and then travels back to Summerland for drop-offs in the evening. So that's the story of the kind of complimentary on-request service that Summerland has.
Good. Okay, Councilor Channer.
Okay, thanks for this report. I'm wondering, is there a cost estimate for the 600 hours needed if we were to go with option 1?
Yes, so, sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry, do we know what that would add?
Can we take the screen down so you can see us?
Oh, so if you'd like me to answer, yeah. No problem. So the net cost to the District of Summerland, and this is a fairly broad statement. So when we go back and do transit expansion planning, we need to look at a variety of factors, including your fleet and other things. But just kind of broadly doing napkin math based on your annual operating agreement, which we'll discuss later, the net cost to Summerland are around $60 to $65 an hour to run additional bus service. So when we look at an annual hour request of both 300 and 600, we just multiply it by that. Again, that's obviously just for kind of napkin math purposes. It's not a formal quote, and there can be additional kind of complexities or costs that need to be layered on as a result of adding service.
Okay, so you said $65 per hour times 600.
Approximately, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And then I just have a couple other comments. How often does BC Transit review the schedule for the 30? I've had a chance to talk to the drivers, and they've suggested that one time in particular, the 12:15 daily that leaves Summerland is often empty because the number 70 from Kelowna heading into Penticton leaves 30 minutes earlier. So a lot of people are able to get on that one. So I'm just wondering, if we were to review some of the times where people aren't using the bus, could hours from there be added to changing the route? Because I think something needs to change. We've had the same schedule, the same route for a long time, and we've tried different tactics to try to get more people on. And if there's certain times that aren't working, I think they need to be reconsidered. And then branching out into new areas of Summerland to serve more people might be a way of making this work.
Yeah, thank you for that, and noted. So we speak with the company who operates transit, Barron Smith, down in Penticton constantly. We are always open to input from drivers. We look at the data. As far as adjusting midday trips, that does get a little bit difficult just because the bus needs to be somewhere. You know, it's not as though we can park it for an hour and then reuse the hours later, just with staffing and other costs. But if council is amenable to it, we can certainly take a look at perhaps maybe making some midday adjustments in order to make up the additional hours. It's very unlikely that we'd be able to find enough to satisfy one of our recommended approaches just by optimizing the service, but certainly could get us part of the way there.
Do we have, do we keep data on passenger numbers between Summerland and Penticton on Route 70? Or do we know that? Do we know how many people get on and off in Summerland on that bus?
We do. I don't have it at my fingertips. It's not a lot. The majority of the riders are getting on and off in Kelowna and Penticton, though.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Barkle?
Thanks. I got 2 or 3 things, Your Worship, so bear with me. I noticed that the ridership is down this year compared to last year, and you care month over month. Any subjective explanations to that?
So we've looked into it. We don't have any theories or speculation. Our ridership is a combination of a financial modeling system, which takes into account number of taps, number of uses of all the various passes, as well as automatic person counters. So we've kind of tried to triangulate it as best we can with relatively small sample sizes. Unfortunately, a couple people changing their travel habits can have a big impact on a system, and the sample or the ridership kind of error rate can impact things as well. For that reason, we generally say, wait 6 to 9 months before we really declare something a proper trend.
So you're saying that your stats on ridership in a month are not the actual ridership, it's a sample that's extrapolated for the month? Or?
Well, we have a variety of methods that we use to determine our ridership. We've got automatic person counter, so it's a laser that tags every person that comes on the bus. The problem with that is that it occasionally misses people, it occasionally double counts people. There's a little bit of fuzziness associated with that. In order to kind of not streamline that, but in order to make it an apples to apples comparison for Summerland and other communities, we then use what we call our revenue model. So we take the taps that are done with the UMO card, the revenue you actually have, and apply a little bit of modeling there in order to smooth it out. So coming to, sorry.
Methods,
yeah, so we compile the 2 methods. So what it does is it gives us a smooth and probably better understanding and more comparable understanding month over month, year over year of ridership, not completely dependent on the health of an automatic person counter or some other piece. But what it does is it makes it harder to speculate on, small seasonal adjustments in ridership.
And then the next sort of area I wonder about, the bus, as you said, it would add 17 minutes to say do the option 1. But is that 17 minutes of additional driver time you have to pay or something? What does it do? Like, do the drivers get time off during the day, or do they work for the whole day? The bus is out there running routes the whole day, so in some ways there must be downtime, I guess, on these routes. So is it necessarily adding time to the wages and such?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So yeah, the time that we are billing you for is our revenue time. So those are hours that the bus is on the road picking up customers and generating revenue and moving people around the region. So there is break time scheduled into the bus schedule for the operators, but there is no kind of slack time in the middle of the day that can be taken. It's at this point with transit expansion, the limiting factor is funding. So BC Transit partners with our local government partners like Summerland and the province in order to provide transit. The province subsidizes the cost of transit at just a little bit over 50% in Summerland. And so annually we make recommendations with input and collaboration from our partners to the province about the potential to increase the supply of transit in a community like Summerland. So we do that annually. We'd be happy to work with you over the course of the summer to, make another request of the province. But really that is the constraining factor right now.
I'll let somebody else go.
Councillor Betts?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the suggestion that Deputy Mayor Trainer was trying to get out about trying to remove one of the less occupied routes and use that and kind of divide it up amongst that 600 annual operating hours in option one definitely sounds like the most appropriate use of the time, except that I recognize what you're saying about how the midday to eliminate a trip from the middle of the day doesn't necessarily make it easier to spread out the trips. But I mean, is there not another way to look at it? If you eliminate the 12:15 and spread out the trips, and instead we have, for example, say we have 4 trips daily to and from Penticton, then wouldn't it actually work to add the additional 9 minutes, or sorry, it was 600 annual hours, but it's about the number of minutes extra on each option. But if we eliminated the 12:15, couldn't that be a way to achieve that? To spread out those routes in the same operating hours that exist currently?
Yeah, thank you for the suggestion. I think mathematically it does make sense. I think operationally I would need to go back and do quite a bit more analysis about whether or not it could be achieved on the ground.
Okay, I mean, because I think from my perspective, where I'm standing is we're trying to turn the dials a little bit to offer better service to our residents without significantly increasing the budget, because that's not, it's just really challenging to do that right now. Straight up, that's just, the costs are really challenging with the cost of transit. So to turn the dials to provide better service is a priority, and that's really important, I think, for us to look at that. And otherwise, then the BC Transit recommendation of encouraging more use on request. But if we want to increase users, I think that this is a more modern way of doing that. So I hope that you can maybe consider that option and take a deeper look. That's kind of where I'm coming from right now. But I
absolutely. We are always, oh, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, we're always very happy to follow any council motions that ask us to look at something like that.
Then the same line of thinking, did you look at modifying the route in Penticton? So you looked at, adding stops here in Summerland, but to save those 8 to 9 minutes each way, what about eliminating stops in Penticton? What about just going straight to the mall?
I think this gets kind of similar to what my colleague Midhat was saying in terms of providing, easy and affordable service to folks from Summerland and to Summerland riders. It terminates at the library. It goes to, it terminates at Cherry Lane, and it stops at the hospital in Okanagan College. The stops at Okanagan College and the hospital are relatively short stops. So if you were looking to trim trip times, you'd be trimming at the end. So people wouldn't be getting maybe as far into Penticton as they'd want to, and then they would need to either walk or purchase a ticket, transfer in Penticton, and potentially incur some additional cost.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for taking all our questions, Bart. Here's one. I'm not sure if you have it at your fingertips, but what is Summerland paying right now for free fares?
Well, I don't have it at my fingertips, unfortunately. Sorry, I wouldn't want to speculate. I'm a little bit rusty on that figure.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Sorry.
We're not paying anything. It's revenue we're not receiving, and that's revenue we would be establishing. So it depends how much the bus fare is, right?
True, but we still have a ridership that's getting free fares within Summerland. There's a dollar value associated to those fares. If those fares are being recognized by the municipality, then it would offset the costs in which what we're looking at if you wanted to do a route expansion. So there is that way of looking at it also.
Yeah, but the question's for us. It's not for BC Transit. Councillor Trainer.
Yeah, I think, what I'm seeing in this whole picture right now is that what we're doing is not really working. Like, we're not seeing more people riding the bus. And I think our council has tried really hard to increase the numbers by offering a free fare, but that is still not really working. And so I think that we need to look at the route, and I think that we need to look at the number of times we're offering that route. So like on Saturday, there's 5 trips. Maybe we only need 3. Do we need 5? I don't know. During the day, Monday to Friday, we have, I think it's 5 as well. So again, I've heard that the 12:15 is often empty. So what is that costing us to run that into Penticton and back? And I think, expanding the route is another option to try to reach more people. So I really think that we need to look at the number of trips we're doing and look at our route and figure out how we can tweak this, because otherwise the numbers are going to keep going down, and then we're not going to be able to go back to the province and ask for more money because they're going to say your numbers are coming down, and then it's just like a downward spiral. So I guess my question in all of this is, would we be able to, and this is, I guess, for BC Transit, do you guys ever allow us to do, or within your program, a trial? So could we do a trial this summer of adding a couple stops through Lower Town? Is that complicated, or what does that look like?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So pilots are difficult, only because it does take riders some time to adjust their travel patterns. So even for kind of slam dunk transit expansions along major corridors, we don't see a big ridership increase on day one. It takes people time to realize that the bus is coming there, maybe to try it once or twice, cancel their parking, adjust the time they get their haircut in Penticton, etc. So we generally look for trials to probably last at least a year or so. And then the second piece is that there is a little bit of time required for us to make changes to transit routes. We've got, operator booking. We've got to do safety and training assessments of the route. We need to put in stops, make adjustment to riders' guides, and quite a few other things. So there's generally about a 6 to 9 month lead time there as well.
Councillor Peak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to recognize that we do need to do some more work. I also do not like the option that puts it on Peach Orchard, because I don't want to lose the stops that we have at the shopping mall or the seniors village or the hospital here in Summerland. I think they're very important in terms of delivery. So when we are looking at things, I don't want to see those missed. But I certainly think we need to look at those internal things that we can make a difference on. Thank you, Bart.
Thank you. Councillor Barkle.
I guess regardless of what decision we make here, wouldn't it be a good idea to promote take the recommendation of BC Transit and do further promotion of the on-demand pickups, just to see that, I think that's as I said earlier, a particular value to Summerland residents, and there's no real reason not to promote it a little bit more. So maybe we can agree to that much anyway. Does that require a resolution of council to direct them to do that, or can we just do that as an understanding that we're, and without even knowing exactly what that promotion looks like?
Well, we promote all kinds of things without the direction of council, so what's one more? CAO.
I wrote it in my book, and so it shall be written, so it shall be done.
Follow up?
Yeah. And I have to agree with practically everything everybody's been saying here. I mean, we need to, it's no surprise at all that with transit, plans may not meet reality. I'm a little bit disappointed that our ridership didn't go up when the fares became free or didn't go up very much. And so that's what we know, that they're inelastic, as an economist would say, to the bus fare prices, which goes to, let's round it to the nearest dollar instead of $1.75 for transfers and things like that, when she was speaking of simplification earlier. But Councillor Traynor suggested a trial, if that would be possible. We got to try some things to see. And if we need some more revenue to get more people on the bus, maybe we should reinstitute charges for the fare to Penticton. It's just doesn't seem to make like a whole lot of difference.
I don't think the timing's that great for that. Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I'm going to try and I don't know if this would be I don't think it's a motion because it's too broad, but I would like to see a report back from BC Transit looking more closely at option 1, which is the one on Sully, to see if we can stay within our current budget, but look at operational changes to optimize that service. So whether that is best discussed in Penticton, shortening the route, to eliminate the Cherry Lane stop and keep the hospital and Okanagan College, that could be one option. Or secondly, to go from 5 trips to 4. I'd like to see if BC Transit could come up with those kinds of numbers, can we achieve a balanced budget with those kinds of operational changes? And finally, to add to all of that, operationally, does BC Transit support that route on Sully? Because you've mentioned a safety analysis is required. And I think that would be important information for council to have before making that final decision. Please?
Yeah, and related to that, does BC Transit do seasonal services? Because I can see coming up Sully in the summertime, but in the winter, there are days there's just no way a bus could get up that if there's a big snowfall or something. So that's a question to you, Bart, sir.
Yes, we do offer seasonal service changes. Some of our larger communities like Kelowna have 5 or 6 adjustments coincide with the opening and closing of schools. Penticton actually ramps up some service in the summer for tourism increases and things like that. So yes, seasonal adjustments are part of our suite of services.
So that could be an option as well. Yeah. Anyone else? So my view here is that I think what we're looking at here is more than a tweak of a service. I think we need to really rethink transit in Summerland altogether. There's the fare question, the local service, I think, which everybody would like to see local service, but how do you pay for it? And to me, the big question is we need to think about how Route 70, how we can work with and better utilize Route 70. This is a bus that we just think of as the Kelowna bus, but it's also a Penticton bus, and we don't really. It's not part of our, because it's not our route. It's not part of our thinking. But we ought to look at the whole big picture of it and see how that we do have 2 buses going to Penticton. How do we take advantage of that? Because I don't think we're taking advantage of that right now. So I just think it requires a whole big rethink, and we need to look at the whole big picture and not maybe just one little piece here, one little piece there. And how we do all that and how we get the ball rolling, I guess we just punt that over to staff and they work with BC Transit to come up with something over the course of the next 6 months or whatever. It really realistically, I think it's something for the next council to make a decision on. Councillor Betts?
Well, I see where you're coming from, and with all respect, I actually think that sometimes us deciding to make the tweaks, we have all of the information in front of us, except for the Route 70, which I think is a really valid point. But to start from scratch, it seems like we're taking the opportunity to make improvements. And I think that those are valuable and we're putting a lot of consideration into that. So I don't know, I would like to see more action rather than pushing it farther down the road.
Councillor Trainer?
Bart, listening to our discussion, in your opinion, is there any, without doing a full-scale review, and I understand that we can't make little tweaks, is there somewhere in between where we could continue this moving forward? Just because to wait another year, it just, I feel like we lose time and I don't know, is there somewhere in between where we could start some work on some of these aspects?
Yeah, they very well may be. I'd like to take the opportunity to just go back, review the tape from this meeting, all of my notes, and pretend and then work with Mr. Georgievich on next steps.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Worship. So the Route 1 that is up Saltley Road, that would be an additional 30,000 at 600 hours at $65 an hour. It's going to give us a bill of $39,000. So I really would like Bart to take that into, thought when he's going through this, because if we want to keep within our operational budget that we have right now, 39,000 on BC Transit's part to reduce is a big number for them to try to accomplish that.
Councillor Trainer?
I hear what you're saying, but then we have, this route, the midday route that's got, according to Trevor, does not have a lot of people on it because the 70 is running right before it. And so that's why I said if we could look at the number of times we go into Penticton and perhaps cut one back, then maybe we wouldn't have to spend more money. So, yeah.
Okay. Why don't we just receive this for information? Councillor Patton? Councillor Van Elfen, second. Any further discussion? Yeah, Councillor Trainer?
Okay, sorry to keep on this. It's important because otherwise I feel like we're just, kicking it down the road and wasting money on it. If we're going to receive it for information, does that mean that Bart's going to work with staff and then would we expect something back in a couple months or something like that?
I will certainly continue to work with staff. I'll just need to double check into some of our resourcing and availability for planning right now.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that never leaves the table, transit. I mean, it's always on the table. Right? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? And none opposed, that carries. Thank you. Thank you, Bart. And thank you, Mr. Georgievich. Next, we have the Transit Annual Operating Agreement. Just for something completely different. Who takes this? Yeah, okay.
It's Transit Day today. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. The District of Summerland's transit system is operated through BC Transit, as we have all just heard. And we annually are required to sign an operating agreement with them for this service. So the 2026-2027 operating agreement is in front of council today. And it is comparable to our historical agreements. Overall, the agreement does reflect an $11,878 increase when we compare it to last year. And the primary reasons for that are they relate to increased operating costs, which include vehicle maintenance, lease fees, insurance, and of course fuel. And everyone's seen the cost of fuel that's gone through the roof. So our overall budget for 2026 on an annual perspective for transit is $303,000, which is sufficient to ensure that this service does continue throughout the year. So that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Councillor Peak?
Based on that, I would suggest that we sign the operating agreement to do it again.
Okay, bringing that forward.
I will bring that forward.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Betts, any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? And none opposed, that carries. the Summerland Community Arts Council request, Director of Finance.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. So the Summerland Community Arts Council has requested a second payment extension on the District of Summerland's portion of the rental fee revenues for the shared space at the George Riga Arts and Cultural Center. Council may recall that in October of last year, Council did support the Arts Council's initial request to defer the 2025 Q4 shared revenue reimbursement, and that was to be paid this March 31st of this year. So the Arts Council is proposing in their proposal to provide the district with an initial $1,000 payment toward the 2020-2025 Q4 balance immediately. And they're also proposing to defer the remaining 2025 Q4 balance, as well as the 2026 Q1 amount until the end of July. And that works out to be $4,523.89. So it should be noted that the payment for 2026 Q2, so that's April to June revenues, those are also going to be due at the end of July as well. So when all of this comes into effect. So that overall payment will probably go from $4,500 to, well, it will depend on usage. The Arts Council has indicated that they are anticipating the receipt of their BC Gaming grants funds in July, which will allow them to settle the full remaining balance at that time. They have also just recently applied for the 2026 grants, so funding, they don't yet know whether or not funding is confirmed or will be awarded. Now, Council should be aware that should the Community Arts Council's financial situation not improve or the BC Gaming grant not be awarded, there is a risk that the Arts Council may ask to further delay the outstanding payments or alternatively ask the district to forgive the payments in their entirety. Should Council support the request in front of you today, staff is recommending that the Arts Council return to this Council as a delegation in August of 2026 to provide a further update on the financial status of their organization. And that concludes Lori's report.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions? Councillor Peak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recognize the difficulty that the Arts Council has been in. They have always received the grant that will be coming in July, and I do feel like that amount would be able to be covered at that point. So I would agree with the opportunity of council putting that over and having the representation come in July and make a presentation to us.
Okay, thank you. So you bring that motion forward?
Yes, I will, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Betts? Any discussion? Councillor Patton?
No, I'm good.
No, okay. I'll call the question then if there's no further discussion. All in favor? And none opposed, that carries. So we'll take a 10-minute break. That works for everyone. Back at 10 after, 3:10, thanks. Okay, 9.6, the auxiliary firefighter remuneration. Fire Chief Robinson, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor Council. I am here looking to amend the current policy number 600.2, auxiliary firefighter remuneration, to accurately reflect the current pay scale for auxiliary firefighters attending emergency incidents and training events, and to improve payment for training opportunities. In order to identify the current proposed remuneration received by firefighters for their attendance at emergency incidents and training events, the following significant changes to the existing policy are recommended. Number 1, probationary firefighters' wage increase to $18 per hour. Number 2, establish a new NFPA Firefighter 2 pay scale for emergency incidents and training attendants. We are removing the incident firefighter pay rate and adding National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, Firefighter 2 to coincide with the 2002 British Columbia Structure Firefighter Minimum Training Standards. The Summerland Fire Department is a full service operations level agency which requires all members to be trained to a minimum standard of NFPA Firefighter 2. Number 3, establish a new NFPA Firefighter 2 and Driver EVO pay scale for emergency incidents and training attendants. The NFPA Firefighter 2 and Emergency Vehicle Operation EVO pay and training rates reflect the dedication of the firefighters that increase their training and qualifications to meet the specialty requirements for drivers, operators of large fire apparatus, aerial devices, and water tenders, as defined in the BC Structural Firefighter Minimum Training Standards. Number 4, accurately reflect the current wage paid to part-time firefighters from $18 to $19 per hour. Number 5, remove the section referencing standby rate as it's no longer applicable. Number 6, update the court duty reimbursement to be set at the provincial minimum wage. The reimbursement for the attendance of auxiliary firefighters should be updated to reflect the current BC provincial minimum wage to align the reimbursement with employment standards, as so that the policy does not need to come back to an amendment each time the wage increases. This is a new proposed addendum. So to give you a little bit of background, currently auxiliary firefighters are compensated for attending emergency incidents and training events. The current policy regarding remuneration was adopted in 2009 and does not accurately reflect the current wage scale that was resolved by council previously. In 2023, as part of the annual budget process, the hourly rate pay scale for auxiliaries changed to a call out at a time and a half for the first 90 minutes and then a regular salary wage after that, coinciding with other fire departments in the area. Also, the part-time employment rate increased by $1 per hour to $19. The training rate pay scale was not adjusted. Policy number 600.2 was never amended to reflect the changes. Financial implications, the fire department training records for 2025 indicated that the recommended changes to policy number 600.2 would result in additional annual budget costs of approximately $22,000. Also, this was discussed at council during 2026 budget deliberation was approved by council. This was discussed in council in 2026 budget deliberation. Also, it's unlikely that there will be a budget impact for the increase in reimbursement for auxiliary firefighters to attend court, as it's not a common occurrence. In conclusion, the policy does not correctly reflect the current remuneration paid to the auxiliary firefighters for incidents and or part-time employment and should be amended to accurately identify these rates. As we did in 2023, we did increase the incidents not to be the highest, but also not to be the lowest. In this increase in training in 2026, it's the same, not to be the highest, but the lowest, not the lowest. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions? Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Worship. So Rob, what we're looking at here is a policy change and not a financial change, since we've already approved the $22,000 in budget.
Thank you, Councillor. Through the mayor, yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Peak?
That was my clarification as well, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Van Elton?
I'll move the staff recommendation.
Okay, that's to have it adopted. Councillor Peak, second. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? None opposed? That carries. Capital projects update. CAO staff.
Now for something completely different. You're not transit, no. No transit item here. Just our continued progress along the primary clarifier and of course the Victoria Road. And staff are still working very hard to make sure these projects are achieved on time and on budget. Everything's looking great. And so we continue to bring this as a standing item to council to provide these updates, and I'll turn it over to the guys here momentarily. Sean Grundy will be representing our Director of Utilities today. Sean's the Manager of Utilities because our Director is away on a well-earned holiday. But of course, we always try to operate from an environment of no surprises. But one day a surprise could come to all of us. Thankfully, that day is not today. So, but if the day ever comes, you'll recall all the times I said, no surprises are our goal, but not a promise. And with that, I'll turn it over to our Deputy CAO, Mr. Joe Mitchell.
Thanks, CAO Stat. Through the Mayor, just a brief update on Victoria Road. Progress is moving very quickly on that project. Over the last 3 weeks, the main work that we got done was typically just water main work, a couple of services along Victoria Road. A significant tie-in last Friday also occurred. We've also begun paving. So Dale Meadows, a portion of Dale Meadows Road has been paved. And then that was last week. And then today and tomorrow, they're paving the new pathway along Dale Meadows Road. For the most part, from Victoria to the Dale Meadows Park, there is a small stretch that we're still doing water main work around that we can't pave as of right now. Moving forward, we're going to be installing curbs along Victoria stretch that hasn't been done yet. So that'll be next week. We'll be doing that, which will leave us paving probably in a few weeks' time for the northern bit of South Victoria. The southern bit of South Victoria from Dale Meadows to the south will likely occur next week with the lower lift of asphalt being paved. So there are 2 lifts of asphalt. The first lift will happen next week. It'll look like we left a couple inches missing on the curbs. We will be coming back and doing a final lift so that the final lift is one solid map from the top to the bottom of Victoria. Outside of that, basically we're getting close to completion. Probably near the end of May or early June, we'll be looking to be substantially complete that project, which is probably 3 weeks to a month ahead of schedule. So barring no unforeseens, that's what we're hoping for.
That's great news. Councillor Bell? No. Councillor Barkwell?
What unforeseen things do you foresee? No, just kidding, just kidding. I'm glad that you're doing the paving as soon as you can instead of saving it all to the end. It's really not very fun to be driving up that dirt road, bumping along for the people at the far end, the south end of South Victoria. If I could go back to the Prairie Valley project, the yellow lines, the center lines that have disappeared, when is that scheduled to be repainted?
So switching gears to the Prairie Valley Road project, through the Mayor, the contractor that did that project is going to be doing a seal coat over top of the asphalt there, just to harden the asphalt a little bit more along that stretch, and then the project will be repainted. We are doing district painting in the coming weeks. We don't have a date yet from the painting contractor, but that part of the road likely won't be painted because it will be painted immediately after the resurfacing or the surface coat gets added there. But we can't do that until we're fully complete the Dale Meadows portion of the Victoria project, because that has to be the detour when they're doing the additional sealer on top of the Prairie Valley Road. So there is an order to how we're approaching this, but yes, the yellow line is starting to wear pretty thin now.
Thank you for that information.
Councillor Peak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to commend all the people involved in the project, not just staff on Victoria Road. I think to be able to shorten it for 3 weeks is amazing. The work has gone very consistently, very well, and that water service that had to have extra work done at night got done much faster than I ever thought it would be. So thank you to, please thank the staff as well as the contractors.
Thank you. Councillor Betts?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just a quick word to say thank you to the crews for getting the job done as quickly as possible. You know, there's hundreds of people in and out of Dale Meadows sports fields every day now, and these improvements are really important. And you know, the project got delayed out of circumstances beyond our control, so it ended up with this project happening at this time of year, which is unfortunate. So I really appreciate the team working so hard to make it happen quickly. So thanks for that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Get a motion to receive for information. Councillor Peak, Councillor Van Elfen, all in favor? That carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Oh no, we're not, we're only halfway through, aren't we? Okay, we got ahead of ourselves. No, good. We have to give Sean his time here. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one will be relatively quick. There wasn't a whole lot of updates since Jeremy's last update a month ago. I guess the biggest one was the tie-in did happen on April 1st, so we've been operating on the new clarifier since then in the commissioning period, and it's been working great, which is unusual with these sort of projects. There's always some sort of an issue, and things have been working excellent so far. We've finished off the asphalt paving as well, and the end of commissioning is actually tomorrow, which is what the point where we move into substantial completion. You might question the percent complete is 74% based on schedule, and I'm telling you that it's essentially finished. We do have some additional works to do as well that aren't part of the main project. So we're taking apart the old primary clarifier, giving it a good clean, and we're going to have a structural assessment done on that with our consultant to see what we can do going forward to bring that up to standard as well. Similarly, with the budget spend showing us 41%, again, we're in a different position there. There are a number of invoices that are still in stream that haven't been specifically paid yet, so those have to be paid out as well as that additional work that I mentioned as well. But yeah, there's some other things as well, record drawings, maintenance procedures, holdback payouts, but for the most part, things are going extremely well down there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions? Councillor Peak?
Do I get to take a tour when you're all done out there? I know we haven't done that in a long time.
It's at the point the council could come down at any time if they'd like to. Just reach out to Jeremy or myself and we can show you around.
I will do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll have to have a ribbon cutting surely, no?
Yes, it's in our communications approach to have a proper ribbon cutting for that facility, and we'll arrange council's time to be down there.
Thank you. So we've already received this, so we don't have to do it again. So we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the 2026 tax rate bylaws. You're busy today.
It's like I think it's the busiest meeting of my year. But you get them all done in one day and then it's great. But thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council did adopt the district's 2026 to 2035 year financial plan on March 3rd of 2026. So this plan included a 6.36% property taxation revenue increase for 2026. 0.84% of that increase relates to the new annual debt payments required for the Wharton Street and Victoria Road projects, with the remaining 5.52% to cover 2026 operational cost increases. So the average residential property assessed at $864,255 will see an increase in taxes over last year of $134.42. The average commercial property assessed at $433,802 will see an increase in taxes over last year of $158.13. The proposed bylaw sets the property tax due date at July 2nd, 2026, following the community charter. Now, in addition to the proposed tax rates bylaw, I just want to provide my annual reminder to residents to please claim their homeowner grants and that they must apply directly to the province using the province's online system. Now, for those homeowners that don't have a computer or don't feel comfortable going through that process, the province also has a toll-free number that you can call. We strongly encourage homeowners to claim their homeowner grants as soon as they receive their 2026 property tax notices. And we are going to be mailing those out the week after the May long weekend. So unfortunately, due to legislative requirements, the proposed resolution does include council holding a special meeting next Wednesday on May 13th because the tax rates must be adopted prior to May 15th. So that's also in your resolution as well. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions? Councilor Van Elfen?
I'll move the staff recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Second, Councilor Patton. The province has made changes to the deferral process. Isn't that right? For seniors, that you defer their taxes? I think they've made it more difficult, or they've increased the interest that, or they've put interest on it, that it was interest free before, or something like that. They've made something to make it a lot less attractive to defer.
They may have, Mayor. I personally don't know the answer to that. I can get you a response. So Emma, who is our tax clerk, is well informed in terms of the deferrals. I personally don't deal with them a whole bunch, but yeah, there's a good chance.
Do we know how many residents defer? Like how many approximately? I mean, how many people take advantage of it?
So approximately, I'm scared to give you a response right now.
But some people do.
There are definitely people who do utilize that service, yes.
So I think in our communication, we should, the same way we always remind people they have to claim the homeowner grant from the province. I think we should put into our communication when we send out the tax bill that deferral has changed, and it's the province that's made this decision. So they're not coming back to us and saying, so it's not a big surprise to people, and then they're not coming back blaming us. So.
No, that's absolutely something we can do. Thank you.
Okay, no further, Councilor Parkin?
I just looked it up, and because I remembered being eligible, I've looked into it, and they've changed it from like a really low rate, I don't remember exactly, 22%, but now it's prime plus 2%, so that's not very attractive.
So I think we should give people a heads up about that, because most people won't be aware, I'm sure. Okay, so I'll call the question. All in favor? None opposed? That carries. UBC Minister meetings. Who's taking this?
It'll be me, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. The 2026 Union of British Columbia Municipalities Convention is scheduled for September 14th to 18th this year in Vancouver. As in years past, local governments are able to request meetings with both provincial ministries as well as provincial staff. The deadline to submit the meeting requests are coming up. The deadline for meeting with ministers or to have your requests in is due June 24th, and with staff is August 5th. I believe to date, and as noted in your report, there has been some discussion that council would like meetings requested on dam safety requirements and the associated funding, as well as advocating for a community paramedic. At this time, we are seeking the formal direction from council as to which ministries council would like us to request meetings with, as well as the meeting topics. And once this direction is received, we will make sure that we submit the meeting request before the posted deadlines.
Okay, so what do we want to do? Councillor Peak?
Well, we recognize that you had meetings regarding the paramedics, so I think that's sort of looked after. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to meet with whichever ministry in terms of the fact that it's with climate change and lower water in all forms, what are their plans to assist communities in the changes that are coming along? So I don't know what ministry you would do that to kind of discussion.
Land and resources.
And the alternate route for Highway 97 when there's a blockage, I think we should continue to pursue that and reinforce our discussion in the past.
Councillor
And-
Alphen? Oh, sorry.
If I may, one more? Okay, so that, although you've spoken with Minister Popham, do we have to go back, or we're going to have the meeting like we normally do with the other communities around agricultural reserve?
Yeah, we were talking about having a meeting with the, not all the ag municipalities like they had, but just whatever core group that we identify, who could take advantage of this. So it might be 12 municipalities, and she was keen to meet with that larger group. So I think we'd organize that anyway, so. But we could request a meeting with her on her own as well, if there's something specific. I extended an invite to her to come to Summerland for when the food hub opens. So we'll be talking, if it opens in August, the way it's planned, then we'll have a chance to bend her ear a little bit here as well, so. Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In light of what's happening in Garnet Valley again, Ministry of Mines.
We really like flogging dead horses around here, don't we? Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Shannon?
I think last year we were denied our meeting with the Ministry of Transportation. Is that right? Yeah. So I do think we should meet with them again. And speaking of flogging dead horses, I still think we need to continue to talk to them about safety through Trout Creek. I think there was another accident at Thornburg last week or the week before, Thornburg and Highway 97. So I think continuing to talk to them about that, because it's just like the problem keeps happening and nothing's changed. So, yeah. And then that's it,
So
yeah.
when do we have to make the requests by?
The ministry requests are due June 24th and staff requests are due in August.
So could I suggest that we send all our ideas to the corporate officer?
Sure.
And then you can come back to us next meeting with the list, and then we can discuss, then we can say yes, no, whatever. How does that sound? Yeah? Okay. So that doesn't require a resolution then, does it? No. Okay, so no bylaws for adoption, nothing removed from consent, so I need a resolution to close the meeting to the public pursuant to sections 91C, G, and I of the Community Charter. Councillor Van Alphen, second Councillor Peak, all in favor? That carries. So we'll just give a few minutes for the room to clear.